behalf of the League of Women Voters and your community television station, BCTV, I want to welcome you to a conversation with the candidates. I'm Janet Kramer, moderator of our program, which is an informal discussion of questions I will ask of all of the candidates. While there won't be formal rules, I'll do my best to make sure there's a fair balance of time among all of the candidates to respond to the questions. At the end of the program, each candidate will address you directly to ask you for your vote. The town of Brattleboro has a 5-member select board. 3 people are elected for 3-year terms and 2 people elected for 2-year terms. This March 1st, we are going to be electing 1 person for a 3-year seat and 2 for 1-year seats. Continuing on the select board are Dick DeGray and Dora Babulis. These conversations will be divided in 2 parts. This afternoon, we will talk with the 2 candidates for the 3-year seats, Spoon Agave, Ken Schnick, and joining them will be Chris Chapman, a candidate for 1 of the 2 1-year seats. Chris was unable to join the 5 other candidates for the 2 1-year seats. Those candidates are Hillary Cook, Catherine Turnus, David Gartenstein, John Wilmerding, and Joe Bushy. They will be part of our conversation next week. Question 1. What are your reasons for running for this select board position? What special skills, interests, activities, or experience would you bring to the job? Spoon, we'll start with you.
Hello, I'm Spoon Agave. I'm running for the 3-year seat. I'm running for this because I'm a resident of this town. I plan to be here the rest of my life, and I am retired. I have the time, and I certainly have the experience. I've been involved in municipal affairs now about 13 or 14 years. I have spent a year on the select board, and I've been on the development review board, the planning commission, the recent chair of the charter revision commission. I've seen this town and been a part of it from just about every angle, and I have a very intimate understanding of how it works. And I want to bring all of that to bear on the work that I want to do for the people of this town. Primarily, I want to sort of encourage the town to move in the direction of sustainability, of looking at the future, of making a realistic assessment of the future, and determining as a town what we can do to prepare for many of the eventualities that look like they are soon coming down the pike. Thank you.
Ken, as the candidate for the other candidate for the 3-year seat, what are your answers to the question?
Sure. Well, again, my name is Ken Schneck. I am the Dean of Students at Marlboro College in Marlboro, Vermont, and I just want to thank BCTV and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I've worked with the League for over 10 years, registering college students to vote, and to sit in this different capacity is actually quite entertaining. I moved to Brattleboro 4 years ago. I had been heavily involved in local government in New York, where I'm from, and certainly wanted to get started here, but really wanted to wait for 3-4 years to get to know this community, to really invest in it, and to show this community what I'm all about. I obviously don't have the same experience, and I think that's part of what I am bringing to bear for this process. I want to bring a fresh perspective to Brattleboro. I am currently the chair of the Town Arts Committee, so the arts are really near and dear to my heart. But at the same time, youth issues are going to be paramount for me. How can we get college students involved? How can we get high school students involved? How can we put youth at the forefront? Because that is the next generation of our leaders in this community. I'm really excited to put my skills to bear. I actually have a PhD in educational administration, and as a dean of students, I know it might come up later, unpopular decisions are fine with me. It's something that I'm quite used to. I'm excited to bring a spirit to the table that has a new energy, that is of a different generational approach, that we're going to bring some new energy to the select board. I've been really excited to attend meetings over the past year and see, okay, so here are some opportunities where we can bring new voices to the mix.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you, Janet. I'm Chris Chapman. Unlike the other two gentlemen, I'm running for one of the one-year seats. And what I am is a new kid on the block as far as local governance goes. I've served peripherally, actually, on a number of nonprofit boards. I've been a treasurer of a nonprofit. I've served on a number of committees. I've organized events like the hospital's bike ride. I work locally and live locally, and really that's my key reason for stepping up. That's actually my key set of attributes that I think that people would find useful to them representing them in local government. I don't have the governance experience that these other gentlemen have shown, and they have been impressive attributes that we've been hearing. What I do bring to a job like this is a sense of organization, working well with other people, and I think that it's very important to say that I understand building budgets. This is really one of the key activities on the Select Board. It's a complex undertaking. The result is as big as a city phone book, and every page is rife with things that are important to many people. So what I'm bringing is, well, 30 years of experience being reliable for a living for other people in a service-oriented job. So I think that I would just leave it at that.
Okay. One of the things I'm going to do is alternate among the three of you so that everybody will have a chance to be first and last and middle. And I want to start by asking Ken the second question. What were the most important issues dealt with this year by the Select Board? As you say, you attended their meetings. Did you agree with most decisions made by the current Select Board? Would you make other decisions, and why?
I think the first thing is to distinguish important from loudest, and I think that we often confuse those two things, and I try to make a point to not do that. Certainly some of the loudest were pay-as-you-throw, which already seems like a really long time ago, but I guess was within the past year, and certainly the decision about the skate park, which I support enormously, and I'm so happy to see that group moving forward, because it's really important. One of the things that came out recently that I was really impressed with was the findings from the Brattleboro Community Justice Center saying that youth really do need a place in this town, and that's paramount. So I do support that. But I think that it's really important that we turn our attention towards some of the issues that did not get as much attention, but were certainly, to me, some of the most important. One of them, for me, is really about liquor density in this town, the density of liquor licenses in this town, and it's something that the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition and the Select Board will be meeting about on Tuesday. And as my background is in health education, and I've done over a decade of alcohol and other drug education, this is one of those that didn't get as much outcry, as much attention as some of the other issues did, but I actually think is one that we really do need to talk about, given the number of youth in this community, given the number of retailers that are looking, just to give the Select Board a rubric when they get a request for a license to say, how are we going to evaluate this? How will we determine if we add another liquor license to this town?
Spoon?
I didn't follow the Select Board too closely this year. I didn't hear much about them. I read the newspaper every day. I read Brattleboro. I read the notes, the excellent notes that are there after every meeting. My general picture is that the Select Board for this past year and the year before has been, by and large, a maintenance Select Board. They have handled all of the stuff that has come before them, but they seem to have shied away from innovation, from moving things in new directions to looking at the future, and that's really my main interest. I understand, of course, that we have to maintain as we go, and that we have to be concerned about the general quality of life and the repair of the town, the infrastructure, and all those things, all of the time. But if you're not doing innovative things, if you're not taking into consideration what you think the future may be like and taking steps to react to it, to respond to it, then in fact, to be maintenance only is, in the end, to be losing ground. And I think that's what's been happening.
Oh, thank you, Janet. It's not just what's gone on in the past year, but the past several years that has been very interesting to me. I think that the Select Board did a great job of getting us going with the new plant down on Vernon Road, the sewage treatment plant. I'm a native here, and when I was a boy, Mom wouldn't let us go near the river because it was simply filthy. It was a sewer. If you'll note that Brattleboro was built with its back to really one of its loveliest assets, which is the river. That's all changed now. And the Select Board made a very difficult decision to plow ahead with a $30 million plus project. Well, now that sort of thing isn't easy. We're bonding for it, and it means getting all kinds of grants and doing some very complex things to do something that helps us really maintain ourselves well. Spoon has just talked about moving away from maintenance. I may just put another perspective on that, because I think that what he's saying is entirely valid, that you can't just be stuck in a rut in what you're doing, and you do need to move forward and look at other ideas. One of the ideas that we have that we really do need to do more with, I think, is the recycling piece. Ken was just talking about something that has receded into the past. It was a loud issue. Well, it was loud, I think, for a really good reason. Take a look at what trash costs us in this town now. In the 2009 annual report for the town, $1,013,000 for taking away the trash. And to fund a budget that wasn't going to be a budget buster, and to continue to pick up trash the way we have been, it meant cutting back on library hours, and it meant cutting back here and there on the ability of the town to be as completely responsive as it needs to be. Barbara Zondag got up at town meeting and said, this budget, with these changes in it, in order to accommodate all the expenses, we had to trim here and there, and it could be that it's just going to be different as you contact the town. What that meant was that people won't be able to pick up their phones when you call. They're going to have to get back to you because they've got other things on their plate, because they haven't been able to hire. Now, do we want to continue to be able to just throw anything away that we want, put it in a plastic bag out to the curb and forget about it, and maintain that ability at the expense of library hours, or maybe the ability to compensate or hire public safety personnel? I'm thinking, no, we've got to delve and enter into a continuous process of reviewing what's best for the town, and I don't think status quo on trash is really a great idea. There's a lot that we can do, and this is a really good opportunity right now to be getting involved with something like this. As you'll recall, there was a local citizen who greatly opposed the pay-as-you-throw decision. And that was a hard one for me as a rep, as a town meeting rep, to vote for pay-as-you-throw on the basis that it was going to cost more to dispose of our recyclables that way, or dispose of our trash. And the heck of it was, the gentleman was right. And now he's on board with the recycling committee. And this is an opportune time.
You've just anticipated my next question.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Which is, how would you propose, as a Brattleboro Select Board member, to deal with the state of Vermont's fiscal crisis, Governor Shumlin's proposals for cuts, or local cuts? And you've already begun talking about the consequences of local cuts.
Yes.
I'll let you start.
Well, we haven't yet seen what's coming down the pike from Montpelier that will affect us. I simply don't know. Will it be less in education funding? I simply don't know. The legislature has only been in session for a few weeks, and we haven't seen anything come out of that. I'm just not an insider there. I can only give a generic answer because there aren't any specifics yet with which to answer that question. What I do believe is that everything that comes down is going to need analysis, it's going to need discussion, it's going to have to be well ventilated in public and in committee meetings, and we're going to have to look at everything as part of a process, whether it's a short-term process or a long-term process to take care of the issues, but we'll have to do that, and we're going to have to do some tough things. We're going to have to balance one interest over another in every case. I don't anticipate this is going to be an easy job.
Certainly. Human Services seems to, at
Oh,
least in
yes.
the proposal, to be taking a lot of the cuts.
Yes, and isn't that interesting? Did you know that Project Head Start, probably one of the most successful federal programs, Great Society programs in the country, had, if not its first, one of its very first programs right here in Brattleboro.
Yeah.
And, oh, you knew that? Yeah.
Education, yes.
Oh, great, great. It's a tough one. You know, is money going to dry up for human services? I hope not, because the need really hasn't gone away. And the kids don't vote. They're too young. So it's up to us to really do what's best with what we have. How we're going to do that? Honestly, I don't know yet, because I don't know the problems that are going to that somebody's going to come and plop onto our plates.
I'm going to turn to Spoon, ask you to address the same.
Yeah, I have to agree with Chris. It's not clear to me the extensiveness of the state budget cuts. And then once we know that, how that will particularly affect us here. But just say for a guess that state resources are distributed very roughly over all the places. It is distributed according to population. So maybe we could take a general guess that if the state cut $100 million and we were, what would it be, 3% of the state population, it might be 3% of the 100 million. I'm not sure how to guess it. But in any case, I think it's important to recognize that we will be seeing cuts from the state. We will be seeing cuts from the federal government. And they're probably not going to end this year, that they are going to probably continue for many, many years. And we have to begin to think in terms of self-reliance. How can we take care of ourselves? You know, I was really taken aback one day when having a conversation and we were talking about the problems of the town and the state and the world, I made this comment that the solution to these were really out of the town's hands, and this person said, you know, if there wasn't food on the supermarket shelves, whose problem is it? If there isn't health care for us, whose problem is it? And it is our existence, our lives, our well-being is our problem, as it used to be 100 years ago or 200 years ago, more, when people knew that they had to take care of themselves. And I think we need to begin thinking along those terms of how we can and should be taking more care of ourselves.
Thank you, Spoon. Ken.
Yeah, you know, I've been out and about a lot lately, and this is the issue. This is what's come up, and I think what has frustrated me a bit is the conversations I've had with people who have said, well, this is a deal breaker. And then you talk to someone else, and this is a deal breaker, and this is a deal breaker. And we all have our own deal breakers in our head, and hopefully some of them match up, but some of them likely wouldn't. And that's the wrong way to approach this, because there are going to be unpopular decisions in this. There just will be. And we have to go into it knowing that there are going to be things that we hold near and dear that are just not going to be deemed in as much as importance in balancing out this budget. And so I'm really anxious to see what's going to come down from Montpelier. What I'm excited about and why I've really enjoyed Governor Shumlin's approach is he's really also looking at how can technology save us money? And I think Brattleboro is a town that can embrace technology a lot more in looking through the budget. What is it we can use with technology to bring, not just to bring more voices to the fold, but to cut costs?
Can you give me an example of what you're thinking of on that?
You know, there, even in doing assessment, I am admittedly an assessment junkie, and I think that particularly with recycling, we've tried to do a lot of assessment, and we haven't used technology enough to gather the data that we need to make decisions that are relevant for this community. And I'm all about making data-based decisions. I think they're quite fun. But in order to do that, we as a town need to embrace technology more in the same way that I think it would really help us with the feedback loop so that we can get the different information from the residents of Brattleboro to hear, hey, these are my deal breakers, so that we can open up that two-way communication. There will be unpopular decisions, and I'm nervous that people are going into it not thinking that that's going to happen.
Talking about unpopular decisions,
Yes.
the next question has to do with them. There's been quite an outcry about the Select Board's recent sale of wooded area of Morningside Cemetery to a developer who proposed to build 5 houses before he withdrew because of the opposition. And I've been asked by the opposition group to include the question, will you support protecting the undeveloped areas of Morningside Cemetery from future sale or future development? And I want to broaden that question by asking how you, as a Select Board member, would respond to strong opposition to decisions you may make on behalf of the town. I can't remember who I started with first, so I think I'm going to start with you, Spoon.
Okay. Yes, I know that piece of property reasonably well, and I've enjoyed walking through it. It is an asset to the town, and I'd like to save it. I'm aware of the strong opposition, and as in these things, I don't feel that it is immediately the Select Board's place to step in and give its opinion or make a decision on it, but rather our place to bring all the stakeholders together, to reveal all of the concerns, to talk about all the pluses and minuses, to include all the rights, all the legal ramifications and issues, to talk about possible compromises, and to try and arrive at a decision that all the stakeholders would be reasonably happy with. I have been in touch with one of the members of the organization that opposed that, and I have tried to push them into expanding their personal interest in that single piece of land a little bit further, and taking some initiative and assisting the town in identifying all of the interesting and the unique and the vacant or still available pieces of land around town, so that we can go through them all and identify all the pieces that we want to save.
Thank you. Ken?
You know, my first instinct is to rebel against the question, just because I wish we were talking about this so long ago and not now. My first response is, this is the absolute wrong time to be talking about this. I wish we could press rewind, which of course we can't do, and bring all the people to the table. Because
Well, the major issue for
Yeah.
me is how you deal with opposition.
absolutely. Yeah, I was at the meeting that the people who purchased the land came up, and they were at that microphone, and I got here late, which means you have to sit in front, and sat right next to that microphone and heard the compromise that they worked out. And I was really inspired by it and wish the Select Board had been part of that process. And so my push is always going to be for the Select Board to be in that role, to provide an opportunity for more feedback, so that we're not saying weeks and weeks later, so what would we have done? As I said before, I'm the dean of students at a college. I've worked in college education for over a decade, and as someone whose background is in working with underage students to educate them on issues of alcohol and other drugs, I'm well versed in making quite unpopular decisions. I do see them. I am someone who subscribes to those teachable moments. I think they come more from when people disagree with you, from when they can see, hey, this is what I stand for, but can I also give you the opportunity to have that back and forth? And I think that's something that the Select Board can improve on right now, is providing that opportunity.
Thank you. Chris?
Thanks. This is another tough one, and I'll have to just be candid up front and say that I don't know that issue that well. I did read most of the stories in the newspaper about it, and what I see there is a clash of ideals. Preserving property is something we do in Vermont because what we have here in natural, the natural qualities of our landscape are lovely. It's a source of wealth in the community, a cultural wealth, and it is the ability to live well in your environment that makes this an attractive place not only to live but to do business. It's truly a quality of life issue, and who can disagree with that? I certainly don't. On the other hand, see, I couldn't be a one-armed economist because it's always an answer on the other hand. We do have an affordable housing issue. I think that's abundantly clear to anybody who just simply drives through town. How do you reconcile the two interests? I would have to say I need more information on that. I need the discussions. I need to delve back into that. If it comes up again, I'm not sure it's going to. Do you know if it's going to?
I don't think it is going to come up, but I think the larger issue, certainly that the decisions the Select Board made, some of them have been like pay-as-you-throw, been very difficult, and that's what I was really trying to get at.
Okay, well, I think that what you're getting at is the answer that I have is that it means I would work to foster a conversation where everyone's philosophical assumptions, everybody's positions are made very clear, and then against the backdrop of the reality of the situation, find something that people can live with, both sides. It has to be that way. That's the essence of polity. It's an economic issue. It's a matter of policy. It's a matter of political economy, and I don't relish taking up difficult themes, but if we have to, I will, and I'm ready. I'm not going into this wide-eyed and innocent, I don't think.
As a psychotherapist, I have been taught that you don't have a choice until you have a minimum of 3 options. So I would want to add that to this. Question 5. Part of what makes a vibrant community is active communication among its residents and between residents and its elected representative. We've just been talking about that. Brattleboro's Planning Commission hearings to shape the future of Brattleboro's downtown district and Post-Oil Solutions community conversations are examples, in Post-Oil's words, of focusing on what we can do to help make Brattleboro a healthier, more sustainable community. What is your role as a Select Board member in these conversations? Do you agree on their importance? How would you help foster them? How does BCTV fit in this task? I'm going to ask you to start, Ken.
I went the other night to the Planning Commission's get-together to talk about the four different districts: downtown, Putney Road, Canal Street, and West Brattleboro. And as someone who shops on Putney Road and someone who lives in West Brattleboro and someone who's often downtown, I was really excited to talk about those 3. And of course, I was randomly selected to be in the Canal Street group, which I said, oh, okay, just not an area that I was the most familiar. I had a blast. I had an absolute blast talking about Canal Street, re-envisioning Canal Street as the gateway to the community, that this is how people get in through Brattleboro. And I sat there thinking, well, gosh, it wasn't the most important to me, and I wish more people had had the opportunity to get in on this. I'm a bit of a broken record with this, talking about communication. I think that my role on the Select Board would really be to help foster that communication, to see what else can we do to bring more people to the table. I do think, again, that technology plays a large role in that. There's a really strong Brattleboro presence on Facebook. Obviously, iBrattleboro. There's a huge chunk of us, the meetings that I can't come here, I watch on BCTV. So I think that there's a big role there. But if we're not reaching out through a variety of media, and I don't think that we're doing that right now, the Brattleboro.org is a little bit of a painful website. And with all due respect, I'm so happy that it's there and I know how to navigate it and find it. But we actually do need to enter the next stage so we can bring more voices to the table. And if we're not using the technology that's available to us, that is one of my skill sets that I want to bring, then we can't get people to these conversations. Once I got to the conversation, it was fantastic. And I'm a strong Canal Street supporter now.
Okay. Chris?
I missed the Monday meeting, unfortunately. It just came up at a time when I had a conflict. The issues that I see with this Planning Commission initiative really fall also into the issues I've been following on yet another committee that I was invited to join, the Southern Vermont Economic Development Group study. And what I see is that there are tremendous opportunities here to draw out the talents and the resources that people bring to the table here in Brattleboro. I like what Post Oil Solutions is doing. I've attended a number of their seminars on the planting boxes for the winter, planting your garden and things like that. We do have, I think, a need as a matter of simply our own security as a community and as individuals to accrete these skills to do these things. One of the skills that we also have in this town, it's a major strength that Brattleboro has, and that is that the disparate groups do come together. They do have an ability to communicate, and they do communicate. And frankly, I think that Brattleboro, if you compared it to Chicago's alderman meetings, you'd find that this is really, well, as far as polity goes, paradisical. And I don't mean to say something silly. I think that the big strength that we have here in town, and this is one reason I decided to brave it and put my hat in the ring, is that there's a lot of strength in the community here to entertain differing opinions, to entertain differing ideas, to entertain new ideas. It's a wonderful initiative to see Post Oil Solutions at work. I think they're important to the community, very important. I think Tim Stevenson has done a beautiful job organizing a group. I think that the BDCC, working with Barbara Sondag, has done a great job bringing people of goodwill together to discuss ways to increase the average wage in Windham County and so on, and all those other related features of development, and to weigh all the ideas against the costs, which are financial and have to do with quality of life. I really think that's my answer. I'm not wrapping it up as a skilled orator because, well, I just don't bring skilled oration to the job. But there's where I stand. That's me on that issue.
Thank you. And Spoon, I know you bring planning skills to the job.
It's interesting. I'd like to add another perspective to this debate, or this need to involve the town in activities. One, I think a select board can legitimately take it upon itself to work more assertively with the school board to try to build a much stronger civic education program in the hopes that by the time kids get out of public school, they actually feel like citizens of the town, that they are the power in the town, that they have a stake in the town, and that they have a place in the town, and there are places there waiting for them. Also, I think the town really needs to, I would like as a select board, to put out a lot more information. I think if any real change is to happen, it has to be supported by the majority of the people of this town. It'd be nice if all the people supported it. But the people aren't going to support anything that they don't understand. they have to have a much greater variety of up-to-date, fresh information on what the reality is. I have sat on the select board, I have listened to many meetings, and have been a part of so many meetings in which I hear people making statements and knowing that they really don't know what they're talking about. They've just heard it somewhere or seen something. This town needs to have a long list of what I call measurable indicators that tell us who we are and how we are doing. And I would also like the town, if it's possible, to distribute this information. It would be nice if we could put together sort of a monthly news column from the town, talking about the important things that are happening, the decisions that are in the midst of being made, and those that have been made, and the opportunities that all the citizens have to become involved, etc. I think we can do a much better job of informing the citizens.
Thank you. And talking about decisions, now is the time I'm going to ask all three of you to address the voters directly and ask for their vote. And I'm going to start with you, Chris. You're going for the one-year seat. You have a minute and a half.
A minute and a half. You know, it's harder to say something succinctly than it is at great length. I'd say, well, I'm a native. I was born at the Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. I'm told that I was almost born in a snowbank between snowstorms. I've been here a long time and have seen a lot of things happen in Brattleboro. When I was a kid, what we know as the Putney Road development was farmland. I'm a citizen stepping up. I think this is a good time to get involved. The town is actually run quite well. I don't see the job quite as similarly as Spoon does. I don't see that we need to be embracing innovation as an end in itself. I see the town as like a 747 full of passengers. I think you want a pilot who's going to be able to fly straight and level through any weather. And I think that's really the job of the selectmen, to do that. And that's what I would intend to do. It doesn't mean I won't embrace innovation, because sometimes you need to approach the airport, the landing, from a different angle, because the winds change, the weather changes, and that's what I think I'm prepared to do, and well prepared from life experience with working with committees and being a concerned citizen, being someone who's got a stake here that's more than 50 years old. I won't try to please everyone. I can't. It's a suicidal mission to try to do that, especially at the local level. But I will work to accomplish the most possible where interests compete for resources, and really try to make the town the best town that it can be with the resources and talents that it has. That's a general job. Specifically, work well with the town staff, work on a good budget, make good policy decisions, make good considered policy decisions in such a way that I can sleep at night. Just as an ordinary citizen coming in for 1 year, hoping to just do a good job and step away for the next citizen participant in local governments.
And the two candidates for the 3-year seat, Stu, you start.
I'm looking for the 3-year seat because I feel, well, I know because I have been here before, that the amount of skills that's necessary for this job, the complexity of the job, the knowledge that you have to have, takes a long time to learn and a long time to apply it in a way that works. I'm not one, I don't really support the 1-year terms. I respect Chris for offering us 1 year of his life. But I feel that what we really need now is collective wisdom. And wisdom comes from as many years as possible, long, long years of dedication and commitment and involvement and just being there, experience. And I have the experience and the commitment, and I hope that you will elect me, and I will be here for many years.
Again.
Well, I want to thank you again for this opportunity. I'm very purposely running for the 3-year position because I am committed to this community. I had remarks, and I feel compelled to respond because there's an obvious difference here. I've lived here for 4 years, and I think if we put forward that the successful candidate is the one with the most amount of years in town politics, it's just really exclusionary for a huge, huge portion of this community that is looking for a voice. I bring a completely different voice to the table, and I respect enormously, having served on the select board, having run before, I respect that enormously. But I also was quite inspired by Martha O'Connor, who holds the seat currently, putting it out there in the Reformer, you know, the time has come for a new generation of voices to come to the table. If we keep doing things as we've done things, we can only go so far. So I have the experience. I've not been in Brattleboro for 50 years. I've been here again for 4. But I bring to this position, I will bring to this position, a new energy, one that's going to bring as many voices to the table as possible, that's used to making the unpopular decisions, that's really comfortable. If you read through the town charter, in connection with Select Board, the word maintenance is there more than any other word. It's maintain, maintain, maintain. I love new ideas. I love being innovative, but I also approach this knowing that there are day-to-day tasks that are going to happen with the Select Board, and it's not always going to be flashy and innovative. So I am very upfront with the perspective that I bring to this. It's as someone who doesn't bring as much Brattleboro experience, but brings the energy and brings the spirit of bringing as many people to this table as possible to get as many voices heard so that we can move forward as a community.
Thank you very much. You know, as we talk about civility as being so important in political life, I want to congratulate all 3 of you for not only being civil, but listening to each other and commenting on each other's positions. That, to me, is the best measure of what a good political community can be. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I thank you for viewing and listening to this conversation with the candidates. Last year, the League of Women Voters celebrated 90 years of being a nonpartisan political organization. And the League grew out of 72 years of working toward being able for women to get the vote, letting women be active voting participants in government. When they got the vote, they said, well, it'll maybe 5 years, and then we won't need an organization like this to learn how to be active voters. What the League, and both women and men, learned was that they needed an organization that encouraged informed and active participation in government, worked to increase an understanding of public policy, and advocated for issues through their studying them and then working on their behalf. The League does not support or oppose political candidates, but when we have studied, we work very hard for those positions that we take. For example, our local member-at-large unit studied transportation. We took consensus on it, and it is now being voted on by the state board, after which we will indeed be very active as advocates for local transportation, statewide transportation. Our programs are listed in the Reformer, BCTV, and other information sources in Brattleboro. We welcome you to join and be active in changing you and your community. Since 1973, even though it says the League of Women Voters, all voters, women and men, are welcome, and we would welcome the 3 of you as members. Tuesday, March 1st, is the day we vote for 3 Select Board candidates, for town meeting representatives and other officials. Voting hours are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the high school gymnasium. All 3 districts vote in the same place. Since there's no school that day, it would be a good time to bring your children, as Spoon has suggested, so that they can experience democracy in action. To be eligible to vote, you will have to be registered by 5 p.m. Tuesday, February 24th. You can register at the town clerk's office in Brattleboro Town Hall. That's also where you can pick up an absentee ballot for yourself by 5 p.m. on Monday, February 28th. You can call and by mail request absentee ballots for yourself or someone else. The town clerk's office also handles that. I want to thank you for watching and listening to learn about your candidates. BCTV will be broadcasting these conversations on Channel 10 from February 12th until voting day, March 1st. Check the BCTV daily listings in the Brattleboro Reformer for exact times. This is Janet Kramer for the League of Women Voters and BCTV. Thank you very much.